are started. Hi, I am Michael Verdi, and welcome to the Big Moon Art House. We've got a good show here for you tonight. I'm gonna go on inside. I've got Mark Martinez and Dylan Verdi, the two curators with me.
Hello.
And we're gonna look at some art and talk about it. So let me go on inside.
Oh yeah, that delay. I was like waiting.
Yeah, so there's
an
The little animation where they just bounce in space.
There's quite a delay from the live stream to our chat. So
you got people in there.
Yeah, so
Cute.
there's people in here looking at the art.
Nice.
So this is the main floor. And Mark, this is the show that Mark curated. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, sure. Well, just to backtrack a little bit, when Verdi originally pitched this idea to me, we were all bored at home, figuring out what to do with our time, and in that space, I had seen a bunch of creators continue to make art, keep making work, putting out content. And so when you had sent me the invite, I thought it was a perfect time. Someone quietly left. What does that mean?
It means it's going to kick everyone off the island.
No.
Either
no.
It's often it is Nintendo's deal. Like, it's pretty flaky. But
oh no.
But if you quit the game and you don't leave through the airport, it will also do this. So who knows? But
well, I can still talk a little bit about maybe people have seen just a glimpse of the show. But just to kind of reiterate, it's this show happened because of the lockdown, the isolation that we're all experiencing, right? And as an opportunity for myself as curator to combine my two loves of video games, even though I don't own a copy of this game, and art, it just seemed like a no-brainer that of course we should do a show in this virtual space. It seems really awesome. And just to kind of talk a little bit about my curation style and curation. So this was a curated call. So I had seen, like I said, my friends posting, other colleagues that I've been following online on Instagram with, and just sent them an invite to do this. Not everyone was able to do it, but I'm happy with the folks that were able to be a part of this show. I think it's just important to note too, in terms of my curation style as well, is like I try to, when I do pick folks, I do try to create a swath of experience within the shows, and inevitably my favorite work is work by artists that talk about identity in some form or fashion and include that in their work, and that could be identity on any descriptor or defining line, but just as long as it's the work that grabs me the most. And so in the show and on your website, for reference, was it the X-Ray 627?
Yeah, x67.com.
x67.com. So that on that website you can find the full bios and artist statements from each of these artists. So that's kind of the impetus for the work. It was challenging to, maybe I overthought the show, because as soon as you told me you had these spaces available, I treated them as real spaces. The spaces being your gallery in Animal Crossing, the game proper, right, and then also the web space that you gave my artists to relay their information of their artist bios, artist statements, their social, like giving artists a platform is really important to me, especially giving artists a platform to those who are underrepresented in major institutions and museums. So if you look at the list of names, it's a community of folks that folks of color, Black, Indigenous, Latinx folks that I've curated, and those are the voices that I try to include in all my curations. And so, I mean, it's just undeniable that we're at a point in our history in the States that we need each other now more than ever. And what kind and the question that I want to pose to us and that I've been grappling with is, what kind of new normal are we going to be inheriting after this? The virus will be beaten, and I take this show as a response to this pandemic. But I think it's really interesting that while the virus shut down the economy, it did not shut down our prejudices as a country. And on a positive note, it hasn't obviously shut down artists' creative capacities to create change, to tell new stories, to reflect on our history, and to look inwardly. So I just want to say thank you, Bertie, for inviting me and including our artist for tonight's show. And I did have fun picking these folks, and this is just really, it's just a really interesting platform, and I hope I hope y'all continue to curate in some capacity in this space, and I hope more people do this kind of project. I know you had mentioned, and maybe you could talk about that a little later, but your points of inspiration for even thinking of a gallery.
Yeah.
And since you've leveled that idea at me, like I've seen other institutions take on virtual space as curating exhibitions, and is a safety precaution, and I just think it's something that could still continue after the pandemic.
Well, I've been you were asking if I was a fan of Animal Crossing before, and I wasn't. I had not heard of it until about a week after this last version came out. And I started playing it, and super into it. And one of the things that you do is they put you on this kind of treadmill of, like, you're building a house, you're paying off your mortgage, you get more rooms in your house. And
sounds like a lot of work.
Yeah, and I didn't have anything to fill the house, and I was sitting here just looking at it, and I was like, I'm like, wow, it's like I have a big empty art gallery, and I was like, yeah, I should, because I was playing with, like, you can upload these images, but see how they're super low res. So apparently the tool for doing this is so that you can import your images from the previous game. And for whatever reason, they're limited to 32 by 32 pixels, and not even like 256 colors of a GIF, but some smaller subset. And so some of these artwork translate really nicely into this format, and some less successfully. But and they all have to be square, so they're all cropped and all of that. But it reminded me of a fun. Dylan and I were talking about art shows and curating art shows, and we were kicking around ideas, and I said, you can always curate a virtual art show. You have access to anything that you can grab a photo of. It can be in your art show, right? And the kind of thing is about, like, how would you pick the artwork, and why would you show these pieces together? So that's what I was like, oh, well, that's what I'll do. I'll ask people to curate shows for my gallery in Animal Crossing. And then, of course, I was watching videos of Animal Crossing to learn how to do all the stuff. And I thought, oh, of course, I could live stream the gallery opening. So here we are.
Here we
A
are.
live stream of a gallery opening in Animal Crossing. I do want to point out some stuff. I realized, Mark, when you were talking earlier, I had focused on this one image over here, which I'm going to show again, just because it's I think a good example. That's Mark's cat. It looks like.
She's taking over the stream.
Whoops. So I'm going to zoom in. So I just wanted to show you, I just want to show kind of a close-up of like what these things look like.
Yes, and so this is work actually by the artist Heather Birdsong.
Yes.
And these translated, I really think they translated really well and very interesting. They're very different. But okay, cool. You're pulling up the originals.
So this is the original, and then this is how it translates in the game. And so the colors are weird because there wasn't this kind of dusty rose, whatever pale. I don't know what color that is. It didn't exist in the palette for this. So yeah, this is what we got. Nice. Yeah, it was about as close as I could get it, for instance.
So Heather's definitely been one of those artists that's working diligently during the pandemic. And these pieces are actually really tiny, but they're very, as you can see, they're very masterfully done. And I'm so happy that Heather's able to be a part of this show. And it's just really interesting how they translate to the small platform. I'm like trying to restrain my cat from walking on my head right now because she's enacting performance art right now.
I wanted to.
It looks like you have a question there. I don't know if you wanted to.
Oh, I can't see the thing. Yeah, if there's a question on the stream that you can see, go ahead and. I don't have that pulled up.
How do we know each other? I guess we didn't really do introductions. And then also my bio is posted to that website I mentioned earlier as well. But Verdi is actually my mentor, my high school mentor in an after school arts program. So that's how we became introduced. And you introduced, web design and, video blogging in its early heyday, to me, and so it kind of makes sense that we're working again in this virtual space, and that, but thinking about how sophisticated and accessible the technology has become, I think it's just I don't know if I would have imagined it going this route, or I don't know, I didn't think, I don't know what I thought actually. I just think it's cool that we're here now.
Yeah.
And that it is just becoming more increasingly accessible.
I wanted to show some of these. Here's another one. This one here is by Celeste Lindsay. This is one that it's again, I like the way that it came out in Animal Crossing, but it's also very different than the real thing.
One of my concerns was that people might be upset at the way they translate to Animal Crossing, because I'm working with real artists, and I like to think that the artists that I work with aren't dramatic people, but people have their preferences, and I didn't want to, whenever I made the invite, I wanted to specifically say, it's going to be cropped and shrunk down to 32 by 32. If you're okay with that, we'll do it. But yeah, I hadn't actually known that it would do like the color swapping, or I'm lifting my cat very weird.
So in a second, I want to go downstairs and look at the other exhibit that Dylan put together.
Yes.
But first, I also want to, oh, hold on, it's gonna kick everybody to the airport. It looks like it doesn't kick everybody off the island, which is good, which is what I was afraid of. But it does send us all back to the airport, and we have to go back to the gallery. But one of the things that I did actually, I can just pull this image up while we're talking. So all of these so of course you can go to the website. There'll be an archive of this live stream, but all of the work, like in the, the actual artwork in higher resolution, is all there. So you can look at it, like you said, along with information and contact for the artists. And then there's also these QR codes. So if you do have Animal Crossing, and then there's like a app for your phone where you can scan in, oh, wrong button, where you can scan in these QR codes and you can get this artwork and you can hang it on your wall in Animal Crossing. I mean, how cool is that?
That is actually pretty cool.
Yeah. So there's a whole page on the website with just full of QR codes, and you can scan them with your phone and yeah, add them to your Animal Crossing decor. So down here in the basement, this is Dylan's show. Dylan, you want to talk about this?
About my, yeah, sure. So this show, let me pull my notes. So this show, I titled it Inside Looking In, because similarly, when you asked me to do this, it was a couple of weeks ago, before I suppose the needs of others was so pressing. So I was thinking a lot about myself in quarantine and isolation, and like Mark said, like what that does to a person. And thinking about that, I felt weirdly very prepared for, I guess, the emotional impact. I felt like I had been there before. So, even though the world is completely changed for different now, a lot of things felt the same despite changing so much. So my collection, I pulled from big museums. I did not go the smaller unrepresented artist route. But I think about museums that I go to a lot, and I think about the way that they curate their galleries, and always what I would do differently with the art that they have up. So I pulled from a lot of the big New York museums, Met, MoMA, Guggenheim, and then, yeah, I think that's where everything is from. So
Yeah.
I chose a collection of work that explored ideas of repetition, mundanity, the changes in life and death, and how all of those things inform ourselves and the questions that we ask about ourself, our identity, our place in the world. And when I was looking for pieces, one of the works that's on the wall, maybe you can go to it. It's Linda Benglis Blatt, which is hard to translate into a 32 inch pixel thing, because it's poured like rubber liquid on the floor, all these multicolored liquids on the floor. And when I was doing my research, there's a quote from that where she said, "I realized the idea of directing matter logically was absurd. Matter can and will take its own form." And so that made me think a lot about, despite everything being so unpredictable, so much of my own personal emotional state felt very predictable, and just reflections on what that is. Is it good? Is it bad? Is it just what it is? Yeah. So I chose a lot of my favorite artists, mostly women, lots of women of color. But there's also some pieces that are, there's a piece from 1628.
Yeah, there's a couple here that I think translated really well into Animal Crossing.
Yeah.
This one by Cindy Sherman. And even the next one, even though it's all text and it's completely unreadable in Animal Crossing, I still really like the pattern.
The way that it looks.
Yeah. So let's see here.
Yeah. So
this
that's
is
a Jenny Holzer.
Right. So this is the Cindy Sherman one I just put up in the stream here, and then the one next to it is the Jenny Holzer. And it says, "Some days you wake up immediately, and you wake up and immediately start to worry. Nothing in particular is wrong. It's just a suspicion that forces are aligning quietly and there will be trouble.
Yeah. So, very, Jenny Holzer quite, she gets you in that way.
Yeah.
But that one especially made me really think about how, I guess, emotionally I have felt those things before, and a lot of what we were experiencing in quarantine and isolation was very similar to past feelings of depression and anxiety, and and then that skull one right there.
Yeah, let me
Peter Clay's.
Let me bring that one up. So this one translated really well too, I thought.
Yeah.
To Animal Crossing.
Yeah.
So love Dutch portraiture. Once upon a time took a class that was entitled Women Artists, but it was actually a Dutch portraiture class. Which I was bothered by at first, but it actually taught me a lot about Dutch portraiture and its way of storytelling through symbolism. This is a still life with a skull and writing quill. So Dutch portraiture is very it's almost by the book what it's trying to say, what it means. Like a skull means death and the passage of time, and so that was very interesting. Every image in it will have a certain meaning. There's all kinds of research that's gone into each artist and what the objects that they put in their pictures represents. Different flowers can mean things. I can't tell what other things are.
So
you might know better than me.
Yeah.
Some of these are very abstract on the wall.
This one right here is the Kusama Infinity Nets. So it's a crop, like a super zoomed in crop of it, because it just came out as like gray if you did the whole the whole thing. Yeah, it was just a mess. So I zoomed way in, but yeah.
I've always loved her literal obsession with repetition. For her personally, it's a manifestation of her mental illness. She's so she calls these accumulations, and I think it's almost does it a disservice to try to put too much meaning behind it, because I think it is very incredibly personal to her, but it is like the physical representation of her feelings for her. And I don't know, something about it is very identifiable. What's that one next to it?
Next to it is whoops. Let's see here. My images are jumping around. It is the one by Anna. India.
Mendieta? Yeah.
So it's a little difficult to see. Again, there is vaguely a figure there, right?
There is right. Well, that's what it looks like in it, so this is her Silhouette series, but they're all figures of her body, her disappearing into the earth. So again, lots of thoughts. Yeah, lots of thoughts on mortality, and I guess our literal physical place in the world, and how, I guess, both big and small that is. But she had a whole series of her silhouettes, being washed away or disappearing into the dirt. So a very physical aspect, or a physical look at our identity on this planet, on this physical earth.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to move on to the last thing, just so that we're not here for forever. And that is it's the installation that I did. It's up in the attic. So up here. Here we go. this. I'm gonna I'll spin around the room here. Try to do it slowly. It inadvertently had, as you pointed out, Dylan, a little infinity room-ish quality to it. That was not intentional, actually. In the game, there is a character called Celeste, and she comes to your island, and there are shooting stars, and if you wish on shooting stars, you get little star fragments, and then you can craft things, and she'll give you recipes for crafting things. And I happen to get recipes for this floor and for the wall. And together, I thought they worked really well with this. So the images on the wall are still frames from a video, and so Mark had put together, along with another friend of ours, John, a show back in January, and they let me put a piece in it, and this was a video painting, and the video is actually from like the 90s, sometime late 90s. It's HBO. It's scrambled. It's like analog cable copy protection. And I recorded it because I was just fascinated with how that looked. And yeah, it mostly just lived as a file on a hard drive for 20 years or more. And I had always meant to make it a video painting. And yeah, a couple of months ago, I was like, like a TV and a thumb drive is cheap. I mean, relatively, like less than $200 for the materials to put it all together. So this is actually a 1-hour video that repeats for 24 hours. But the idea here, though, was, or the idea of the scrambled image. So there's a face in here, especially in these stills, there's a face. And you can see it most in the one here in the upper left corner. Let's see if I can zoom in. It's like a mouth and a nose.
Did you ever know what was screening at that time?
I don't know what movie it is. I have no idea. I don't know. But anyway, I think this is someone's. Occasionally you can see hands. There are other faces in it. Yeah. But the thing that it reminded me of basically is about how we project different versions of ourselves, especially in public, especially in media, so social media or on television, or and in this case, I thought it would be interesting to do. So in this installation, you can come in here. And so bells is the currency of Animal Crossing. You're welcome to come and pick up some bells in front.
Oh man, my coworker Marco would have been rich by now.
In front here of the television camera, although it doesn't actually put you on the televisions in the room. There's televisions hanging on the wall.
Just pretend like it does.
Pretend like it does. But I thought it was interesting that you have your Animal Crossing version of yourself then here live streamed on the internet as just yet another version of how just how we present ourselves in public. Yeah. Anyway,
do you have little emotes that you can do
in the game? Yeah.
Get in front of that camera and start.
Oh yeah. Look, Jen. So that's Jen in front of the thing. She's doing some. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So there's the Animal Crossing version, then the projected Animal Crossing version,
right?
Then the video streamed Animal Crossing version of you.
Delight.
What does that mean?
I don't know.
Wow.
Well, very cool. So, yeah, I just want to remind everybody, if you happen to have checked this out, check out the website, the letter X
Please
627.com.
follow the artist.
Yeah, follow the artists. And if you have Animal Crossing, put some of this artwork in your house. It's pretty cool. So yeah, thanks.
Cool.
Thanks y'all for joining me and for doing this and coming now to talk about it. And yeah, let's see if I can I wave?
Very cool.
Nope, that's wrong
Thank you for
button.
sharing your space.
Yeah.
I don't know what this is. This is encouraging. Okay, that's my thing.
Oh, encouraging.
All right, yay!
I'm shouting into the void.
Woo!
And I'll stop the stream now. Here we go.